Welcome to week 6, TGIS 311 Maps in GIS. In week 6, you'll be working on lab 4. We'll be revisiting a bunch of previously learned skills as listed here in the middle of the slide. Feel free to pause and review them. There'll be a plethora of new skills. For example, we're going to talk about using the lab composite document or lab compilation document, however you'd like to call it. We'll be doing a spatial join, select by attributes, select by location, a merge, creating buffers, symbolizing using quantities. You've actually done that previously, but we're going to dive a little bit deeper. You'll be setting the number of classes when symbolizing, how to use different color ramps, how to perform queries. You'll be using the field calculator for all cases or at times selected cases. You'll be removing borders from symbology so that it's more easily viewed, and setting the map scale. In addition, I would like to call your attention to creating a new project. Specifically for Lab 4, this is what your create a new project would look like in Pro. You would create the name of the project as user ID underscore lab underscore the lab number. In this week, it would be 4 underscore PROJ, which stands for project. The location you have to set, and this is the location that this new folder will be created for your project. So this line location is a folder location. You will make either in Windows or in Pro using this button right here, your user ID underscore lab underscore the number 4 underscore dir. This is your directory for lab 4. This directory folder belongs in your labs folder, which belongs in your user ID, well, AAA is what I call mine, user ID 311, the quarter, whatever that may be, the year, whatever that may be, underscore directory. Technically, you could just eliminate GIS 311 labs. It's up to you. But as long as you have a major directory and your directory for the specific lab in which you're placing the project folder when you create the project. That is clicking OK in this box in ArcPro. In your Canvas course, there is a PDF that describes how to do this. There is also a short video, 3.5 minutes long, that goes through all of the steps to do this. These are the steps that were taught in Lab X 4 labs ago actually. Please make sure to follow the video, follow the directions, go back to Lab X, whatever you need to make sure that your directory folders are set up properly at the beginning of each lab. A couple maps of the day from years past. This is an interesting bike ride. This is from the 2023 Summit to Sound Leaders Route by S. Durant. Pretty intense web map. It includes the elevation, loss, and a little bit of gain for this route. Here's another NBA. Oh, it's another map. This one's called NBA Boundaries. NBA divisions with 2 expansion teams. As you can see, the Sonics are still listed in Seattle. I can't recall when this map was made. Yeah, I can't tell. But it's interesting to me, not being a fan of NBA, it's interesting to see the divisions, the major division I'm guessing the West and the East. And then the divisions, notice how they are geographically proportionate or correct, I would say. Which brings to mind the NCAA Division I football conference. So this would be D1 football conferences. And before I forget to mention, there's a 50-point bonus available. You may find it in Canvas. It's towards the end of the course, but you could look at it now if you find it. And you'll be essentially asked to create a web map of the current 2025 Division I football conferences with all the teams. So this is a 2024 version. It's not a web map. It's a paper map. It's kind of a bad map because parts of the map are being cut off. This is, by the way, why I require you to use 0.25-inch margins at least, because this map was built all the way to the margin, and then when the image was shared by somebody, California was cut off, Texas was cut off, Florida was cut off, Maine is cut off. The only border that actually works is the northern top part of the page. So here's something that isn't very mappy, the NCAA Division I football conferences, but where you have an opportunity to make it mappy because you can create a map and earn bonus points. That would pretty much cover a full lab. So if you got a 0 on a lab and then did this bonus, you could essentially make up all the points. Your Lab 3 directories. I just wanted to point this out, that there's a lot of data, and you'll be managing even more data in Lab 4. But let's go through these slides. The image in the middle is divided into left half and a right half. Everything from the top to about the middle is on the right, blown up a little bit bigger so you can see it. You notice raw data L3 is down here. That's also over here. So right here and down is the information on the left. So let's start with the folders. You have a folder connection for Lab 3. There's the project folder. And then I added a folder connection to my directory. You don't have to always do that in your labs. I do, however, because I like to have access to all of my data. From there, I have a folder for my helpful files. I have a folder for my labs. Within the labs folder, I have multiple directories. This lab is Lab 3, so here's my directory, and here's the project folder again. This project folder has a little house on it, as does this one, because that's the default or the home folder, I guess you can call it. And remember that this line is the same as this line. It's not a duplication. It's the same thing. This is Lab 3 project. That's Lab 3 project. If I were to expand this button up here, it would look exactly as it does down here. Not a duplication, just a reiteration. Pro makes a backup folder. This messages folder, this import log, the toolbox, and again, all of that is over here. Just the top half is on this side. On the left side is my raw data. And for Lab 3, you had quite a bit of raw data. You'll notice that I made the double folder mistake. I did not catch that until just now. This is, what I did is when I extracted the zip, I didn't remove the last folder. So it created a second folder. These are the 4 pieces of data that I provided. Although it looks like I have 2 sets of data. That's what the problem is. I have this data in this folder plus another folder. Well, anyway, I messed that up. you should only have one of those. But moving on, there's a geodatabase. You downloaded some park points, parks polygons, and then I downloaded boat ramps. So there's my raw data. You'll notice that this data that I downloaded and the raw data that was provided ended up in the Lab 3 geodatabase. This is where it should all end up. And at the end of the lab, 3, 6, 7, 8 layers or 8 pieces of data. Future labs will have much more. So that's why it's important to keep a tidy, very tidy and well organized directory. Moving right along, just to verify that you're keeping track with what we're using. These are shapefiles. They're always green. This is a database table. It's not a shapefile. A geodatabase is gray. Feature classes, boat ramps, for example, is a gray point vector data. Within this geodatabase, for example, actually, I'll get to that in the next slide. What we don't want to do is open up our geodatabase within Windows File Explorer because it comes up with a bunch of gobbledygook files. There's no way to mess with it there. In Windows Explorer, we can see shapefiles, although it would appear to be multiple files with different extensions. That's why I have you turn on your extensions. Point of note here is in this places WA file, there is no PRJ. So this is one file right here in Pro, and this is presumably the same file, but it's a little bit different because this has the PRJ file. This PRJ file is the projection. You define the projection for places WA, and then you projected it. And doing so created this PRJ file. It's only 1 kilobyte. It labels the data, and it helps it line up. Here's another 311 directory snapshot that we just saw in the previous slide. Here's a close-up for the directory. Notice we have the directory with the project. This is Lab 2, and then we have the Lab 2 geodatabase. So it's important that your project folder is within the directory. And then within the directory, also in the same line as this project folder for Lab 2, there will be a raw data. There just isn't one showing here, but it would be in this same line. It would be straight down here. This is what the geodatabase would look like in Windows. It's even larger when we include everything. And that's why we can't mess with a geodatabase being this one in Windows. Pop quiz. Is this highlighted in orange .shp a shapefile? When you come to class, be sure to be able to answer that question. Is this item right here a shapefile? Could I grab this row? Could I grab this file from Windows Explorer, copy it, send it to you, and could you open Pierce County Roads with this one file right here? It's 9,096 kilobytes. Here's some interesting bonuses from Lab 4. This week you're working on Lab 4. I just thought I would show you some of the interesting results I've received as part of the Lab 4 bonus, just to inspire you a little bit to go a little bit crazy on your bonus for Lab 4 this week. Some important hints from previous labs, Labs 1, 2, and 3. Use whole numbers in your legends. There's no need for so many decimals. One decimal is fine. So if you have a 0.5 mile, something that makes sense, that'll work. 0.27 miles does not indicate anything. 0.4 miles we can't really approximate. Use decimals carefully so that people can understand what you're trying to say in your legend, and also your scale bar. If you add percent poverty, for example, 0.002% poverty doesn't mean much. But if you had 20% poverty, that would make a little bit more sense, or 2% poverty. That's understandable in the legends. Make sure to not have overlapping lines. That means lines of your legend overlapping with the line of the map, etc. Make sure to not have minor or large gaps or distracting lines in your cartography. Try to reserve red for bad things as a general rule. Your locator maps should not be too dark. Try to use a color for your locator map that meshes with the overall design. Make sure that your north arrow is not too large or too small, or squeezed into a spot that doesn't work. Be sure to add a gap on your legend and text boxes, particularly if you give them borders. Do not label your legend with the word legend. Your references and resources text box should be discrete, small in size, and light in color at the bottom of the page in about 6 or 7 size font. Make sure your headings are in bold. We've gone over in class how to do so. Be sure to use the features of the application to make your headings bold. Choose symbols appropriate for the phenomena being symbolized in your map. Reserve pastel colors for Easter or spring specific maps. See the documentation on how to make a map look better by changing just a few items. Lab 1 had a plethora of cartographic sheets or tips, documents to help you. It would benefit most students to review those every time you make a map. Pull them up. You've got them saved, I think. Open them up and make sure that you don't violate any of the major map making rules. Take advantage of the entire mapping space. Use a neat line if it will help your layout. Most of the time it usually does, to pull everything together, but try not to have major gaps across your map. Fill it with something. Add more text, expand your map, add a picture that contributes to the poster, etc. Make all of your margins equal, usually 0.25 for the size maps that we're creating, 5 inches. And use the lab compilation document. You'll get a demo of that in class. And what that in general is opening up the compilation document and searching for terms that you may be stuck on in the current lab, be it lab 4, lab 5, or whatever lab it happens to be. At the end of the course, you'll have this document, all 10 labs joined together, that you can use as kind of your textbook. Some items from the previous page. This text box does not use bold to highlight the headings. So in the bottom one, I'm showing you how that there should be bold. Use guides. This is too many decimals in your scale bar. This is okay to have in the scale bar. This text down here is how you create this above. And there's also a button you can click that prevents you from having to use these symbols or these characters to create your headings in bold. Be sure to use the color palette carefully. You can also click on color properties and use an exact color like UW purple, for example, or UW gold. Here is a legend that needs some work. Remove the title of legend. Don't use the file name or the field name to name your legend. be sure to change those to something more understandable. This works down here as the data. No change, Democrat, Democrat to Republican, no change, Republican. Those make sense. The difference between sinks on the left and hills on the right. On the left, you can see the sinks. It looks like water would actually enter in there, whereas on this side, they are hills. So this is a hillshade, same exact location, except one is inverted and one is not. To be honest, I can't tell you which is which. You just have to look. Well, we can tell that the image on the left is the sink and the image on the right is a hill. However, some bands, some color bands, if you click the invert, it'll look like a sink. Or if you click the invert, it'll look like a hill. So it depends on which way the color goes, dark to light or light to dark. So just be careful with that. A data table. Moving forward for all labs, you will have a data table to help you manage your data. Here's a sample, and I provide a sample within the lab directions. You'll have the raw data file name, the spatial reference that you start with. Initially start the lab. Before you do any work on the lab, you'll note the spatial reference, and then what must be done. For example, if we're using state plane Harn South, and the based on the spatial reference of the data, write in digitally or with a pencil, if it's paper, what must be done to the data to get it into the proper coordinate system. And then what is the new feature class name? Because of the number of files that you're working with, this type of data table will be very helpful in organizing your data. If you're going on to the GIS certificate, doing this for all of your project data is a big time saver, so you don't have to go back and look through to figure out what you've done with your data when you're at the end and trying to write everything up. Some advanced symbology. I call this the Preston solution because the student by the name of Preston pointed it out to the class to help them. When working with this data, such as poverty rate, when you go into the symbology, if you click on this advanced symbology options, it pulls up a new window. And in this case, you put in percentage, and then you choose number already represents a percentage or number represents a fraction, adjust. Sometimes you have to play with that to make sure it looks proper. And then the decimal places. Notice you can choose 1. Sometimes it starts out with 6. To use this solution, the Preston solution, for your advanced symbology. I will give a demo of this in class, but it's good that you see it here and recognize what's going on. This is something we'll go over in class. This will be the week 4 quiz. This is just what we're doing, a brief summary. You may pause and read it if you'd like, or move on. Some more skills that we're going to cover in the class demo / karaoke quiz. Important information for the next class. And it involves the preparation material for the next lab, the next week. Make sure you read all of the Lab 5 readings and you're prepared. Dress for the weather. You'll be outside for about an hour during class. Wear sensible shoes, and whatever type of weather we get. Make sure you have a rain jacket or an umbrella if you use umbrellas. Read Lab 5 Part 1. install Survey 123 on your personal device. It's free. And then there are a bunch of web pages that I suggest you take a peek at in terms of what's coming up in the next lab. Quick reminder, before you leave in class, be sure to sign off and out of the computer, restart it, and either bring your 10 card up front or just leave it at your desk. Remember that I provide Easter candy to remind us to not have pastel colored layouts and maps. And of course, I'll be in class until 8:30, or the last person leaves, whatever comes first. But again, that's for lab in class. That is the end of week 6 lecture. It's a little short one this week. There's a big demo in class, demo karaoke quiz, and I look forward to seeing you for that.